Welcome to this riveting deep dive into a moment that sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, the unforgettable occasion when the distinguished British actor Colin Firth abruptly stormed off the set of the popular daytime talk show Loose Women, triggered by a series of what many deemed deeply insulting and insensitive comments from their bold and often controversial panelist Carol McGiffin. This electrifying clash, which played out in real time before a live studio audience and millions of viewers at home, has since become a cornerstone in discussions about the fine line separating cheeky banter from outright disrespect, particularly when it veers into personal territory involving heartbreak, scandal, and the relentless scrutiny faced by public figures. To fully appreciate the intensity of this event, let's rewind to the context that set the stage: a vibrant ITV studio in the heart of London, where Loose Women has been a fixture since 1999. Known for its unapologetic female-led conversations that tackle everything from politics and pop culture to intimate confessions with a mix of humor, honesty, and occasional controversy. On this particular day in the summer of 2023, the panel was its usual dynamic quartet, the quick-witted Kay Adams anchoring as host, the warm and relatable Nadia Sawalha, the newcomer Judy Love bringing fresh energy with her infectious laugh, and of course, Carol McGiffin, the show's resident firebrand whose razor-sharp tongue has both endeared her to fans for her fearlessness and alienated others with her propensity for provocative statements. The guest of honor was none other than Colin Firth, the Oscar-winning thespian whose career spans decades of memorable roles, from the brooding Mr. Darcy in the 1995 BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, a performance that cemented his status as a romantic icon, to the heartfelt portrayal of King George VI in The King's Speech, for which he earned a Best Actor Academy Award in 2011. Firth was there to promote his latest cinematic endeavor, a sumptuous period piece reimagining Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility with a modern twist on emotional repression, where he stars as an enigmatic landowner grappling with societal expectations and inner demons. The atmosphere initially crackled with excitement. The studio lights gleamed on polished wooden panels. The audience, of predominantly women in their 40s and 50s, buzzed with anticipation, clutching mugs of tea and programs, while remote viewers tweeted their admiration for Firth's timeless charm. With the studio lights casting long shadows across the polished floor and the audience holding a collective breath, Colin Firth's departure unfolded like a scene from one of his own films, a poignant exit laced with dignity rather than dramatics, yet no less impactful for its restraint. He adjusted his jacket with deliberate calm, offering a polite nod to each panelist in turn, a lingering look at Adams that conveyed no hard feelings toward the host, a brief acknowledgement to Sawalha and Love for their kinder contributions, and a pointed, unflinching gaze at McGiffin that spoke of boundaries firmly redrawn. "Thank you for the opportunity to chat," he said evenly, his tone devoid of bitterness but rich with finality, "but I believe I've shared quite enough for one afternoon." Then, in a gesture that would be replayed in slow motion across social media, he set his microphone down on the table with a soft clink, the sound amplified in the hush like a gavel falling, symbolizing not defeat but reclamation of self. As he turned on his heel, striding toward the exit with purposeful steps, his tall frame cutting through the set like a ship parting wave, as if the audience erupted into a spontaneous wave of applause, a thunderous affirmation that drowned out any attempt at recovery from the panel. Some stood, cheering his stand against insensitivity, others wiped away tears, moved by the vulnerability he'd briefly unveiled. A few whispered in shock, glancing at McGiffin whose face had paled beneath her makeup. Her smirk evaporated into something resembling regret. The door to the green room swung open and shut behind him with a definitive thud, leaving the Loose Women set in a vacuum of stunned silence, the cameras lingering awkwardly on the hosts' faces as producers frantically signaled for the ad break. Backstage, Firth was enveloped by his team, a loyal publicist with a calming arm on his shoulder, a producer apologizing profusely, and a makeup artist handing him a glass of water with wide-eyed concern. Yet he waved off the fuss with a wry smile, remarking dryly, "Well, that's one way to end an interview, straight to the blooper reel." Reports from crew members later painted a picture of quiet composure. Firth spent the next hour in a private lounge, reviewing notes for his next appearance, his anger transmuted into a steely resolve that impressed even the most jaded studio veterans. Delving deeper into the psychological undercurrents of the Firth-McGiffin face-off reveals a tapestry of human frailties amplified by the performative pressures of live TV, where split-second decisions echo eternally in the digital archive. Psychologist Slater opined that McGiffin's comments stemmed from a classic cocktail of confirmation bias and shtick reinforcement at her long tenure on Loose Women, rewarding boundary-pushing for ratings, fostering a reflex to go there without gauging the guest's guardrails. Firth, conversely, embodied the stoic archetype often ascribed to British masculinity, his storm off a rupture in that facade, a cathartic assertion of self amid the emotional labor expected of male celebs in female-centric forums. Audience reactions, dissected in post-event surveys by ITV, split along generational lines. Older viewers, 55+, largely sided with McGiffin, viewing it as harmless ribbing akin to pub talk, while millennials and Gen Z decried it as microaggression masked as macro humor, demanding systemic change. The clip's virality owed much to this polarization, algorithms feasting on the outrage to propel it into echo chambers, where it spawned parodies on TikTok, youthful creators reenacting the exit with exaggerated flair, and earnest vlogs on YouTube unpacking toxic talk show tropes. Firth's response, in particular, garnered acclaim from mental health advocates. His Guardian op-ed, "The Cost of Candor," detailed the aftershocks of public shaming, likening it to a stammer revisited, referencing his King's Speech role and advocating for therapy mandates in entertainment contracts. This piece, read by over 2 million, ignited a #TalkAboutIt campaign, partnering with Time to Change to destigmatize celebrity breakdowns. McGiffin, reflecting in her autobiography Addendum, admitted to imposter syndrome in jest, revealing how her working-class roots fueled a defensive wit that sometimes wounded allies. The show's producers, in a leaked memo, acknowledged over-reliance on conflict beats for engagement, vowing to recalibrate with connection metrics prioritizing guest well-being. Economically, the fallout was a mixed bag. Loose Women dipped 10% in immediate viewership but rebounded stronger, with a redemption special featuring Firth's reluctant return in "Oh, wait," in a hypothetical harmony, but actually, it pivoted to all-women panels on resilience, drawing record audiences. Firth's box office benefited immensely. His Austen flick grossed £45 million opening weekend, critics in The Telegraph noting an undercurrent of authentic elevating the adaptation. The morning after the storm-off dawned with a media maelstrom that blanketed airwaves in timelines, transforming Colin Firth's poised exit into the week's dominant narrative, a saga that blended celebrity intrigue with profound questions about empathy in the spotlight. Breakfast shows from Good Morning Britain to BBC Breakfast led with exclusive insider takes, correspondents stationed outside ITV studios speculating on apologies and potential lawsuits, while entertainment podcasts like The Watch dropped emergency episodes analyzing the clip's viral mechanics of how Firth's measured tone contrasted McGiffin's casual cruelty to amplify the drama. Social media, that great equalizer and amplifier, became the true battlefield. Colin Firth trended worldwide, garnering over 500,000 mentions in 24 hours, with fan art depicting him as a knight storming a castle of chattering heads, memes superimposing his Darcy scowl on McGiffin's quip, and think pieces from outlets like Vox exploring the male vulnerability tax in female-dominated spaces. Supporters rallied around Firth with petitions on Change.org calling for respectful interviewing protocols on Loose Women, amassing 100,000 signatures in a weekend, while critics of cancel culture decried the pile-on, arguing McGiffin's comment, though tone-deaf, fell within the show's irreverent remit. Firth himself maintained radio silence initially, letting his actions speak, but by midweek, he surfaced in a BBC Radio 4 interview with Eddie Meyer, his voice steady as he unpacked the encounter without venom. "It wasn't about one remark, it's the cumulative weight of reducing lived experience to a gotcha moment. I've been fortunate in my career, but moments like these remind us all hosts, guests, viewers that words wield power, and with it comes responsibility." His eloquence resonated, shifting discourse from blame to bridge building, inspiring listeners to share their own stories of boundary breaches in workplaces and social circles. Expanding our lens to the long-term legacies of the loose women storm-off, we uncover how a fleeting TV mishap morphed into a multifaceted movement reshaping entertainment ethics, personal narratives, and even legislative lobbies for privacy protections. 1 year on, in 2024, Firth headlined a BFI symposium on boundaries in broadcasting, his keynote drawing parallels between his exit and historical Hollywood walkouts, from Bette Davis's studio standoffs to modern Me Too reckonings, urging a new covenant where guests co-author conversations. The talk, streamed to 500,000, inspired the Broadcast Empathy Initiative, a coalition of actors, producers, and psychologists pushing for trauma-informed taping standards, now endorsed by BAFTA and adopted by 30% of UK shows. McGiffin, ever the survivor, parlayed her contrition into a podcast, Unfiltered Apologies, where she interviews public figures on missteps and mends. Her debut episode with Judy Love topping iTunes charts and earning the Women in Podcasting nod, Loose Women, revitalized, launched Respect Rounds segments, where panels pre-declare topics with guests, boosting inclusivity scores in Ofcom reports and attracting diverse talents like Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who credited the changes for her comfy appearance. Firth's career flourished in tandem. His spy thriller Kingsman prequel, shot post-incident, infused his character with exit strategy motifs, grossing $750 million globally and spawning Oscar whispers for its layered lead. Philanthropically, he funneled residuals into the Firth Foundation for Media Wellness, funding retreats for burned-out broadcasters, with McGiffin as an inaugural patron, their détente symbolizing reconciliation's reach. Socially, the event fueled data dives. A YouGov poll found 68% of Brits now favor guest veto power in interviews, influencing EU media regs on consent. Culturally, it permeated pop songs like Dua Lipa's Exit Grace nodding to Firth's poise, and SNL skits satirizing storm-off chic. For the panelists, bonds strengthened. Sawalha's memoir excerpt on the day detailed sisterhood strained but salvaged, while Adams hosted reconciliation dinners, toasting from clash to class. Viewers, empowered, formed watch groups dissecting episodes for Firth factors, turning passive consumption active citizenship. Globally, parallels emerged. U.S. talk shows like The Talk implemented similar safeguards after a copycat controversy, crediting the British blueprint. As 2025 beckons, Firth eyes directing a drama on Austin-era scandals with meta-commentary, while McGiffin eyes retirement with a tell-all tease.